Welcome to Shatter.
Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories. She stood in the doorway like she was announcing a weather report. I think I just need a break. Some space to breathe. That was the moment the switch flipped. No argument. No raised voice. Not even a question. I just stared at her. Memorized the shape of her face, the calm behind her eyes, and I knew. She wasn't asking for space. She was soft launching an exit. I nodded. Okay. One word. That was all I gave her. Not because I agreed, but because I had just made a decision. She mistook it for passivity. She smiled like she had the upper hand. And then she walked away, not realizing that she had just triggered the last chapter of our story. That night, I didn't drink. I didn't vent. I didn't even text my best friend. I opened a new folder on my computer. I named it Reset. Inside it, I started building my life again, without her. For the next few days, I gave her exactly what she said she wanted. Distance. She slept in the guest room. I didn't ask when she was coming back to ours. She left the house for solo walks that stretched past midnight. I didn't ask where. She started locking her phone. I didn't ask who, because I already knew. People think silence means weakness. But silence is where war begins. And I had just chosen mine. While she drifted around the house like a tourist in her own life, I was planning an exit so clean she'd only realize what happened when the door had already closed behind me. Day 4. She said, I think we need time apart. Maybe a trial separation. I smiled. Take all the time you need. She nodded, like she expected me to resist. But I didn't. And that's what made her blink. She thought I'd beg. She thought I'd panic. She thought I'd fight. What she didn't realize was I'd already started packing. Not bags. Documents. Passwords. Assets. She wanted a break? She was about to find out what permanent distance looks like. By the end of that week, she was already talking like a single woman. She didn't say it outright, but I heard it in the tone. The way she mentioned finding herself and reclaiming independence. Like she had just woken up from some dream, and now the life we built together was some kind of burden. I didn't argue. I didn't flinch. I just kept adjusting the blueprint. Behind her back, I was already transferring money into a private account, not to hide it, but to protect it. Our finances had always been joint, which meant she never paid attention to where the stability came from. She just assumed it would always be there. Like the lights. Like hot water. Now, the lights were staying on, but only for me. She started staying out later. Different clothes. Lighter makeup. That fake casual look that women try when they're seeing someone new but don't want to admit it. Still, I said nothing. She took silence as permission. One night she said, I think I'll spend a few days at my sister's. Her bags were already packed. I said, of course. Let me know when you're settled. She paused, halfway through the door. I watched her wait for a reaction that never came. What she didn't know was that I'd already spoken to a lawyer. Quietly. Efficiently. With purpose. We discussed everything from the house deed to her recent credit card activity. There were luxury purchases that didn't make sense. Spa days, hotel charges, wine bars in neighborhoods she never liked. Not for her. Not alone. Someone was with her. I had no interest in knowing who. That name would be irrelevant soon. My lawyer had one question. Do you want to fight this in court, or do you want to vanish? I chose the second option. Clean cut. No warning. Just results. Back at home, I kept the rhythm going. Laundry folded. Dishes cleaned. Mail sorted. On the surface, everything looked normal. But underneath, I was disassembling our life, piece by quiet piece. I sold the car she rarely drove. I cleared the joint savings. I rerouted utilities into my name only. And I contacted the leasing office about a transfer of tenancy. By the time she would return from her break, this wouldn't be our home. It would be mine. Fully. Legally. Quietly. She thought this was temporary. She thought I'd wait, like I always had. But the difference was, this time I wasn't waiting. I was preparing. When she left, she called it space. When she came back, it would be a wake-up call. The door she walked out of so casually, it wouldn't open the same way again. She came back on a Sunday. Hair curled. Nails done. That subtle perfume she only wore when she wanted to make an entrance. Like this was some homecoming, not a return to the man she'd quietly abandoned. The key still worked, of course. I hadn't changed the locks. Not yet. She walked through the door with the smile of someone who thought everything was reversible. Like this was a pause button she could unpress whenever she wanted. Hey, she said, setting her bag down. Missed me. I looked up from the dining table where I was reviewing documents. Didn't notice you were gone, I said. She blinked. The first crack. It wasn't the words. It was the delivery. Calm. Unbothered. Not a hint of sarcasm. Just a man speaking the truth. She laughed nervously. Wow. Okay. I went back to my paperwork. For the next few hours, she moved through the house like she was testing the temperature. Hovering. Watching me for signs of emotion. Hoping for jealousy, irritation, anything that meant she still had control. But I had shifted into something else entirely. I was no longer the man who asked where she'd been. I didn't check her phone. I didn't beg for closeness. Instead, I finished what I started. I had removed her as an authorized user from every account that mattered. Insurance, mortgage, health plan, all in my name now. She was still living in this house, but legally, she was already gone. That night, she tried to close the space. She came into the bedroom wearing a version of herself I hadn't seen in months. The old softness, the affectionate tone, the body language of someone who suddenly remembered what she had. I've been thinking, she said. Maybe this break wasn't such a great idea. I nodded. You're right. She smiled, too soon. Then I stood up, picked up a folder from the nightstand, and handed it to her. What's this? Your exit strategy, I said. Inside were the preliminary divorce papers. Already drawn up. Already signed on my side. All she had to do was read. She didn't open them right away. She stared at the folder like it was radioactive. This is a joke, right? She asked. I shook my head slowly. You wanted space. Now you have it. Permanently. She laughed again, but it was thinner this time. Hello. You're not serious. I'm quiet. Not confused. And that was the second crack. Because in that moment, she realized she wasn't walking back into her old life. She was walking into mine. And she no longer had a seat at the table. She sat on the edge of the bed, clutching the folder like it could somehow slow time. Her eyes scanned the papers, but I knew she wasn't reading. Not really. She was searching for a loophole, something that said this wasn't final. This is insane, she whispered. I didn't respond. She looked up. You're overreacting. We were just taking a break. Couples do that. I nodded slowly. They do. And some of them use it to cheat. Her face flushed. I never. You don't have to lie. I'm not angry. And that was the part she couldn't compute. No yelling. No accusations. Just facts and consequences. She stood up. Okay, maybe I made mistakes. But we can fix this. You don't just throw away years over a rough patch. That was her angle now. Nostalgia. History. The illusion that time invested means value maintained. But I had already mourned this relationship. Alone. Quietly. During the months she pretended I was invisible. This wasn't revenge. It was release. I'm not throwing anything away, I said. I'm cleaning up. She started pacing. You can't be serious. You were always the steady one. The patient one. The one who stuck around. I said. Until I realized patience looks a lot like permission. Silence. She ran her hands through her hair. So what, that's it? One bad season and you're done. It wasn't a season, I said calmly. It was erosion. And by the time I noticed the cracks, you were already building someone else a home on my time. Her lip trembled. That was new. Up to this point, she'd been in control. Or thought she was. But now, the script was flipped, and she had no lines left. She tried again, softer this time. Can't we just talk about this? Without lawyers. Without papers. We already did. You just didn't hear it because it didn't sound like shouting. She looked down at the papers again, as if they'd changed. This isn't you, she said. You're not cold. No, I agreed. I'm precise. She stared at me like I was someone she didn't recognize. And that's when it hit her. I wasn't. That man she remembered. The one who waited up for her, who made coffee every morning, who planned date nights she always canceled. He was gone. She didn't kill him. She just stopped feeding him. And now, there was nothing left to hold on to. I turned to leave the room, pausing at the doorway. You asked for space, I said over my shoulder. This is what it looks like when you get everything you ask for. The next morning, she tried to pretend it hadn't happened. She made coffee. My brand, my mug, just like before. Placed it at my spot on the table without a word. Like we were back to normal. As if a gesture could rewind a decision. I didn't touch the cup. She hovered, waiting. When I didn't speak, she finally broke the silence. So that's it. We're not even going to try. I looked up from my laptop. I already did. You just didn't notice. That answer shook her. Because it forced her to admit she'd stopped watching. For weeks, maybe months, I had been disappearing right in front of her, not with drama, not with threats, but with detachment. And now, she was finally feeling the void I had been living in. I stood, grabbed my keys. She stepped in front of me. Can we at least talk tonight? Please. I met her eyes. If that helps you. But it won't change where this is going. Then I walked out. At work, I finalized the last pieces. New apartment, lease signed. Mail forwarding done. New health plan, emergency contacts, legal address, all shifted. She had no idea. While she was clinging to comfort, I was relocating my future. When I came home, she was dressed up. Dinner on the table. Candles. Wine. A last stand. I sat across from her, let her speak. She walked me through our history like a highlight reel, pausing at every memory she thought still had power. I nodded where appropriate, smiled when needed, but nothing she said touched me, because I had already buried those memories. I mourned the good times alone, long before she realized they were gone. Then she asked it, "Is there someone else?" It was the question she wanted to throw like a weapon, but it hit the floor before it reached me. "No," I said. "There's no one else. Just me now." She looked almost disappointed, like it would have been easier to hate me if I had someone new. But the truth was worse. I didn't leave her for another woman. I left her for peace. After dinner, she lingered, like she wanted a moment. A flicker of the past. A spark. I got up, placed my plate in the sink, and turned off the kitchen light. "Good night," I said. And just like that, I left her in the dark. Over the next few days, she switched tactics. Less confrontation, more nostalgia. She left old photos out on the coffee table, vacations, anniversaries, birthdays. I'd catch her scrolling through them like she was trying to remember who we used to be. She started making my favorite meals, laughing louder at her own jokes, wearing the sweatshirt I once said looked better on her than me. All of it felt like set dressing, a desperate attempt to decorate a house she'd already burned. I responded with silence. Not cruel, not icy, just done. Then came the late-night knock on my office door. She stood there in a robe, eyes soft, voice quieter than usual. "I don't want to lose you." I nodded. "Then maybe you shouldn't have left." Her mouth opened, closed. No words came. She thought I'd meet her halfway, thought my heart was still parked where she left it. But that was the part she never understood. I didn't leave out of impulse. I left because I had finally accepted the truth. She only valued me when I became a threat to her comfort. The next day, I moved out. She came home to an empty closet. My drawers cleared. Only the scent of finality left behind. No note. No speech. Just silence. She called twice. Then texted. "Can we talk?" I wasn't ready for this. I thought we were figuring it out. I didn't answer. I wasn't punishing her. I just didn't owe her anything anymore. My new place was smaller, quieter, but it breathed differently. Like peace had weight, and I could finally hold it. I unpacked with a calm I hadn't felt in years. Not relief. Not joy. Just clarity. The kind that only comes when you've walked through fire barefoot and didn't scream. She sent one more message that night. "I just want to know if it's really over." I didn't reply, because by the time she asked, it already was. And she knew it. That's the cruel thing about silence. Once it settles, every echo becomes a reminder of what you lost. And in her case, it was the sound of a door closing that she thought would always stay open. But she was wrong. A week passed. Then two. No more texts. No missed calls. Just absence. I thought she might go quiet out of pride. But it wasn't pride, it was panic disguised as patience. Because on the third week, she found a new way in. A handwritten letter. Left at the front desk of my building. Folded cleanly. My name on the front. No return address. The handwriting was hers, that looping, careful script I used to trace with my fingers on birthday cards. Inside, a single page. "I keep thinking about the night I left. How sure I was. How I thought you'd wait. You always did before. But I see now, you were never passive. You were just patient. And I mistook that for weakness. That's on me. I know you're gone. I can feel it. I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed to say it. You were the better half of us. And I didn't deserve you. I see that now." There was no signature. Just space. Empty space that said everything she didn't know how to finish. I read it once. Then again. And then I put it back in the envelope and slid it into the drawer. Not because I wanted to save it, but because it belonged to a version of me that no longer existed. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel bitter. I felt nothing. Because healing doesn't come with fireworks. It arrives quietly, like a door you didn't realize had already closed behind you. The next day, I saw her in town. It was quick, a passing glance near a cafe window. She didn't see me, but I saw her. She looked smaller. Not physically, but lighter, somehow. Or maybe just less staged. No makeup. Hair in a loose bun. Sweater. Jeans. Real. Unpolished. And I realized something in that moment. She wasn't pretending anymore. The performance was over. And what was left was just a woman who made a choice and couldn't outrun it. I didn't wave. Didn't stop. I just kept walking. Not to hurt her. Not to make a point. But because my life was no longer orbiting hers. And the most powerful thing I could give her now was nothing at all. I didn't ask about her. Didn't ask mutual friends. Didn't check her socials. But the thing about truth is it travels on its own. A coworker mentioned she moved in with her sister. Another said she left her job. Apparently, her break turned into something no one could explain, at least not publicly. And me? I was thriving. Quietly. Without announcements. I got a new routine. Gym before work. Cooked for one. Took walks without destinations. Started reading again, not self-help books, but fiction. Stories where characters left people behind and didn't look back. One morning, I got an email. No subject. Just her name in the inbox. I didn't open it. Not out of spite. Out of peace. Because I already knew what was inside. Regret. Reflection. Maybe an apology. But I didn't need any of it. Forgiveness is a strange thing. People think it's about letting someone back in. Sometimes, it's just about letting go so cleanly that they can't touch you anymore. I archived the message. No reply. No closure. No invitation. She had her turn to speak when it mattered. Now, it was my time to stay silent. A month later, I bumped into Michael, a friend of hers I never really liked. The kind of guy who always seemed too interested in her problems, too quick to side with her in every minor disagreement. He looked awkward, unsure if he should even say hello. "Hey," he finally said. "I heard. You guys split?" I nodded. "We did." "Damn. I didn't think you'd actually walk away." "Neither did she." He gave a slow, uncomfortable laugh. "She's not doing great." I raised an eyebrow. "That's so?" He shifted. "Just thought you should know." I shook my head. I already knew. Because when someone builds their identity around your presence, your absence becomes a spotlight. And I had been gone long enough for the spotlight to burn. That night, I sat on my balcony. Just me, a glass of water, and the sound of nothing. No tension. No eggshells. No second-guessing. She once said she needed space. What she never understood was, space can grow things, or it can show you what never had roots to begin with. It was almost poetic. 2 months to the day after she left, just to get some space, she showed up at my door. I saw her through the peephole first, arms crossed, eyes down, like someone rehearsing a speech. She hadn't texted, hadn't called, just arrived, like she expected the door would still open for her. It didn't. I waited, not to punish her, just to watch how long she could stand in the quiet. She finally knocked. 3 slow taps. Then, "Can we talk?" I didn't answer. Another pause. Then softer. "I just want to say something. Please." Still nothing. After a minute, I heard her back against the door, sliding down until she was sitting on the porch. Same way she used to sit when we first moved in, barefoot with coffee and dreams about the future. Only now she sat with shame. And memory. I didn't open the door. Eventually, she began to speak, not to me, but to the space between us. "I thought time would fix this. I thought you just needed to cool off. I didn't think you'd actually disappear." The voice cracked there. I kept waiting for the old you. The one who forgave everything. Who stayed. Who fought for us. She exhaled. Bitter. Broken. But he's gone. I know that now. She waited. For footsteps. For the sound of the lock turning. For anything. But the only thing she heard was herself. After a while, she stood. No banging. No final plea. Just silence. The same silence I had been living in while she was chasing distractions. And then, footsteps. Fading down the porch. Then a car door. Engine. Distance. That night, I checked the front step. Nothing left behind. No note. No package. Just a faint imprint of where she sat. And somehow, that felt louder than any letter. I didn't feel cruel. I felt finished. Closure doesn't always come with conversation. Sometimes, it's the decision not to let someone back in, not because you hate them, but because you've healed. She wanted to talk. But talk was what broke us. Talk without truth. Talk without change. Now, I only deal in action. And my action was this. I heard her. I believed her. And I walked away. Weeks passed. No more visits. No more letters. The silence stretched out like clean sheets, untouched, undisturbed. I'd see remnants of her life sometimes. Her social media, if a friend reposted something. Always curated. Always polished. The captions read like therapy homework. Healing is messy. Sometimes losing yourself is how you find your path. But I knew better. I lived through the mess she refused to clean up. And I didn't need to find myself. I just needed her to stop blocking the view. Then, one evening, a message slipped through. A burner account. No name. Just a line of text. Do you ever think about us? I read it once. Then again. Then I deleted it. Not because I was angry, but because it was irrelevant. That was her final attempt to make herself a question in my life. But she wasn't a question anymore. She was an answer to everything I never wanted again. I had rebuilt everything. New apartment. New habits. New mind. Even started dating again casually. Carefully. But with a clarity I'd never had before. Because once you've loved someone who made silence feel safer than conversation, your standard changes forever. I no longer flinched at quiet. I embraced it. That's the real ending most people don't talk about. It's not fireworks. It's not revenge. It's waking up and realizing you didn't think about them at all yesterday. And maybe not the day before that either. One morning, I saw her again. Grocery store. She looked different. No polish. No mask. Just a woman moving through a place that once felt familiar. Our eyes met. She gave a hesitant smile. One that asked for a reaction, any reaction. I gave her the same thing she gave me months ago. A nod. And I walked on. Not with anger. Not with smugness. Just a peace she couldn't interrupt. She once said I'd get intimacy when she was ready. Funny. Because I got freedom the moment I stopped waiting. She said she needed space. So I gave her a version of me so distant, she'd never reach it again. Drop it in the comments. Hit subscribe. This is where we talk about what doesn't get forgiven.